Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric Foster again. How are you all doing? I'm with the Future Today and Tomorrow Super PAC. And as just a concerned citizen, first, happy Mother's Day. I did a separate post on my Facebook page, a message to mothers and recounting stories about my mother, my adoptive mother, and other mothers in my life that have made an impact. And I would, recommend that you check it out on my Facebook page. But today, I wanted to talk about trade. And I want to talk about the fact that unfortunately, we're having a real simplistic conversation when it comes to trade with respect to what we as the US do when working with our trading partners around the world and how international trade even actually works. And so I wanted to bring a few things to light because unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of lying that's happening out here in these streets. The US is not in a position right now where we have any actual new trade deals that are happening. We have conversations about deals, but we have no actual trade deals that are taking place between the United States and any countries. What took place with the UK last week was not a trade deal. It was a agreement to keep talking about things if we decide to modify the existing trade agreement that we have between our two nations, but ultimately, nothing is legally binding in our trade relationship. So, all of the unfortunate pronouncements and excitement and the myth casting in regards to what took place last week is just that. There was no bilateral investment treaty that was signed. There was no free trade agreement that was signed. There was no intellectual property rights agreement, no WTO agreement, or any other related agreements that took place. And understand, a trade deal is a complex thing that involves a number of issues that take years to discuss and negotiate. So the Trump regime is lying when they say, oh, we can just do something real easy. We can get it done in 90 days or less, and we can do it with 90 countries, 75 countries, 100 countries, 200 countries, more countries than actually exist on the planet. I'm sure that somewhere in Trump's mind, they're negotiating with Wakanda, the Romulan Empire, the Cardassians, the Hutt Alliance, the Trade Federation from Star Wars, and other entities that are of non existent factor. But in a nutshell, what's going on is right now, currently, the US has trade agreements with every country around the world or trading entity like the European Union. Those deals were signed, some of those were signed during the previous Trump regime. Some of those have been signed during President Obama. They were signed during President Bush 43, Biden. And so they've been in existence for a while. And most trade deals have to go before Congress for Congress to approve the trade deal. Only if Congress, through an act of Congress, has passed what's called trade promotion authority, does the executive branch or the president have the freedom to negotiate, sign, and execute and legally bind the United States to a trade deal. with another country or a trading entity like the European Union on behalf of a group of countries. The last trade promotion authority that existed expired in 2021. And so the White House has to have any and every deal go before Congress for Congress to ratify. That is a constitutional power that is provided to Congress. You can't make up shit and say, oh, we got a deal, which unfortunately, and I don't expect anything of the MAGA mainstream media, but I do expect in the traditional mainstream media for somebody to spend a little bit of time on the Google machine and pull information from the department, from customs, or from the U.S. Trade Representative, or from independent outside entities that analyze foreign trade, trade deals, the structure, what takes place, tariffs, and the like, to be able to do a little bit of research and in 30 minutes or less find out how these deals actually work, what's all involved in them, how many federal agencies are involved in the discussion, agencies with the partnering country, how long it takes, what all has to be worked out, so that you can then report honestly that no trade deal was signed last week. That was a straight lie. And the press conference was really just to show and put on for show, to tell people, well, we've done something when we actually haven't done anything. And from the perspective of Prime Minister Starmer and the UK side, there's no harm, no foul for them to do a solid for Trump, to just basically let him lie. They talked honestly in terms of, we're talking about framework and there are things that have to be a part of some framework and the like, but they gave enough generalities to not expose them at home. But ultimately, no deal was signed. This weekend, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who I am not convinced is as capable and competent as a number of analysts in the financial networks and on the traditional media networks say that he is meeting with the Chinese representatives at the beginning of conversation. Trump is posting on his fake social media platform that there's a reset and great things are happening. All that's bullshit. Those are lies. Nothing happens quickly. There is no magic, easy solution. This is all called work, and it takes time. Just like you were born, and if you remember when you were born, you weren't 18 years old at the same time. You didn't come into the world and get a driver's license before you left the hospital. You had to live life, grow, learn, have vision, hopefully, that works, hearing that works, go through training and education and observation and interaction to be able to get to a place where you could get a driver's license and you could then have a car to be able to drive back and forth to places. You didn't come within the first week of birth with, okay, here's your car keys, here's your driver's license, go forth, young man or young woman, and prosper. That's what you're being told is how easy, quote unquote, things work. They, quote unquote, will just shift easy and magically there'll be these great things that happen. Well, that's not reality. So, what's really going on? So, right now, unfortunately, because of the regime and the complete incompetence of how you actually, oh, I'm sorry, how you actually handle trade in dealing with other countries, we're not in a real situation where we are. I'm sorry, I'm actually ordering something from the door from Instacart, which that's a great example about tariffs. So Trump says if you are trading with somebody and you're in a deficit, then you're losing money, which is a lie. So he then says, well, if we're not getting products sent to us from China and other parts of the world, that's a good thing because we're not losing money. That's a lie. When you buy from the grocery store, you're trading with the grocery store of record. In this case, I'm trading with Kroger's to buy groceries. I'm using Instacart as my intermediary because I don't want to go out to pick them up because my sinuses are acting up. I'm a little under the weather. Kroger's ends up getting a net surplus of cash based on me buying from them. Then I get back from Kroger's. I get food back from Kroger's and other supplies, but I don't get money back from Kroger's. So I'm technically in a deficit with Kroger's. Am I losing? No. So when you hear this man and you hear Howard Lutnick and Scott Besson and other folks sit there and parrot out the lies, you really have to ask, are these people smarter than a fifth grader? Hell, are these people smarter than a kindergartner? Because a kindergartner has a better understanding of the basics of supply and demand and purchase and what you get in terms of the transaction than these people seem to have. So I say this as concerned citizen, father, someone who, working person, not blue collar, white collar, but working person, trying to just make a good living out here in the world. You all are being lied to, and unfortunately, traditional media, traditional analysts, because this is a new thing that they're being inundated with, are not doing a good enough job of explaining these things to you. So I, in my role with the Super PAC, is one of the co-founders, but also someone who tries to bring clarity in writing. And sometimes not everybody will read the long dissertations that I produce. I'm trying additional mediums to get information out, but I just want to make this clear, people. There is no trade deal coming with China. If a new contractual agreement, a property, well, like I mentioned before, because I mentioned what the different types of agreements are, a free trade agreement, a bilateral investment treaty, an intellectual property rights agreement, something, a trade agreement that falls under the World Trade Organization guidelines or other structures, all of that, all of that will have to be negotiated step by step, commodity by commodity, way that you transport, what happens for goods that you fly in versus what happens for goods that you ship in. What happens when you're selling services? What's the rules for selling services? How is the property of intellectual capacity protected? That takes time. That won't be done in 2025. Maybe by 2027, 2028, a new deal. But ultimately, we have existing deals that this man and his regime are shitting on and are basically breaking and violating and imposing tariffs, which, for the love of God, tariffs are a tax. So he's imposed a tax on every product that we import from a country. The business that gets that product or that service from another country they have to pay an extra tax for that. They're going to pass on that tax cost to you, the consumer. No country in the history of countries, in the history of the world, has ever paid that fee on behalf of the company in their country. It never has happened. It never will. The man and his team, when they tell you that that happens differently, are lying. They either don't know how business works or they truly just are lying for the sake of shits and giggles. Let's lie. But tariffs, tariffs are taxes. So the trade taxes that Trump has put on are costing us money. I see it when I buy stuff in the grocery store, when I buy products that I may need for house or for work. Things are more expensive. Gas is not down either. And to the man who said that, well, for parents, it's more important that you have the cost of energy lowered than you have the cost of baby clothes, toys, strollers, car seats lowered. He obviously does not know how to be a parent because ultimately, how much you pay for the oil change isn't going to help you get a stroller that is user friendly for you with your child or pay for their clothes. I'm just sorry, but the two aren't the same. So it's either the mental decomposition of this man and his team or the purposeful lying to just make up shit as they go along. But ultimately, you're paying more. You're already paying more. I know I've seen it in the past 4 months that I'm paying more for just about everything. And it's going to get worse. And as he's violated every existing trade agreement that we have on the books that you can pull up and see either at the US Trade Representative's website or at Customs and Border Patrol website or Department of Commerce. You know, there's different places where these documents are that you can see how these deals were put together and what they all encompass. Because he's violating all of them and he's taxing us and the companies in America for it, this is going to get worse. But ultimately, also, there is no deals. There might be some companies that come up with, I mean, not companies, I'm sorry, some countries that come up with a desire to say, oh, well, you know, by the end of the year, let's have a memorandum of understanding or let's have a framework. But there's not going to be an actual signed deal that goes before Congress for Congress to approve and for that country's congressional body to approve as well. It just isn't. And it can't be because this shit is complicated. Just like life. You were born, it took you 18 years to get to 18. You didn't start at zero and become 18 in a week. That's what they're telling you is how things happen in MAGA land. Is you're born on Monday, you're 18 by the next Monday. It just doesn't happen, people. It never will happen. Hopefully, this clarity is helpful. I know it's frustrating because there are a lot of people that would like to see things work easy. But once again, if you're an adult, when did you get to the age of 18? Took you 18 years. Didn't take you 10, didn't take you 5, didn't take you a month. It took 18 years. Some things are just exactly what they are. But if we're willing to put in the work, if we're willing to be honest, if we're willing to identify clear goals of what we would like and how we would want to see things work, we can work through each one of those years and come out better at the end of the year than we started at the beginning of the year. But we can never short circuit the time. There is no will be 18, or in this case, we'll have new 180 plus country trade agreements tearing up the existing ones in 90 days. This is going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Oh, and then lastly, no one's taking advantage of us. That man and his people are dealing with emotional trauma from their childhood. Somebody did not love them or did not like them and made them feel bad. And so ultimately, they're making decisions based on emotional trauma, not reality. No one's taking advantage of us. Every time he keeps saying, somebody's been taking advantage of us, somebody's been taking advantage of us. What, did your brother Roger take advantage of you on something when you all were kids and you still haven't gotten over that? Did Fred Jr. do something? Did Mary do something? Not Mary, but your sister. I forgot her name, but the judge. Did a friend do something? You wanted uh, a spot on the team in school, or you wanted a certain girl, or whatever it is that happened. Go talk to somebody, get on a couch, talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, get into therapy, take some Zoloft or something of that sort. But damn, don't subject the rest of us to your trauma because nobody is taking advantage of the United States of America. Nobody has, nobody is. You just feel like you were taken advantage of and you've never gotten over that. So you're going to make all of the rest of us suffer. Get help, man. Seriously, get some damn help. All right. Hopefully, you enjoyed my trade and psychological therapy session discussion with regards to where we are and where we're going. I will continue to share my own thoughts and insights, and hopefully, this helps in the conversation and discussion to try to make sure we maintain and protect a country where everybody has an opportunity to exist and to be free. Happy Mother's Day. I pray that you all have a blessed day. Thank you. Goodbye.